Hey there, it's John with FBN Farms, and I was doing some sausage stuffing today and thought I'd make a short video of what I got going on here. So I'm stuffing some Polska Kielbasa, a recipe for which I got online a while back, and unfortunately I don't recall exactly where it came from. Otherwise I would definitely give that individual some credit here. But so this is really not so much the making of it as much as the stuffing end of it. But I'm going to be using an LEM stainless steel stuffer. This is like their 606 model, which is 5-pound capacity. They do also make a larger version that handles 15 pounds at a time. That was a little excessive for my personal needs. The casing I am using is also from LEM products. It is natural hog casing. It's 32 to 35 millimeter, and this is the one you use for brats, Italian sausage, and smoked sausage. So again, I'm doing kielbasa with this. So this is natural hog casing. I've already got one length on the stuffing tube. I'm using I think it's the 1-inch stuffing tube today. So I've taken the hog casing, and you have to soak it for about a half an hour, 45 minutes or so. I also run water down through the inside of it and completely flush it out so it's good and clean. I've got one length on there already. These things seem to be cut in about 6-foot lengths, which makes them more manageable. And I'll go ahead and load the stuffer with a second length, or with not a second length, but a second length of casing. Snug this down just for a second. There we go. Or maybe not. Once you get started, it goes on there pretty easily. Again, these seem to be cut in like 6-foot lengths or something. Alright, so basically I've got 2 lengths of casing on there. I'm going to go ahead and knot the end of this. I'm going to put that right up against the end of the stuffing tube. Now I've already got this tube filled with meat, but if you're starting from scratch, because I've already been stuffing, but if you're starting from at the beginning, you'd want to go ahead and make sure that you've got some out to that point. Don't leave a bunch of air in the tube, because obviously you're going to be feeding that much air into your casing before you even start. Also, because I've been running some, the cylinder on this thing is already about half full. I'm going to go ahead and fill it the rest of the way up, just so you can see the packing process. Not that there's that much to it. So I really like this stuffer. It's got like a nylon piston on it, and it's got an O-ring on there, so you get a nice tight seal, no blowback of any meat or anything. And if you raise the piston all the way up, you can pull the cylinder out. And this is already half full, but I'll go ahead and load it up. Also, one other thing about the air in it. When you're loading this thing, you want to make sure you get all the air pockets out. So I like to take the meat, and I've already got this pretty well compacted. But basically, get it all packed together, get all the air pockets out, and then you can stuff it in there and kind of tamp it down. And I'm going to take a little bit more. Like I said, this was already about half full, so I'm about at capacity right there. So I should have very little air in there. If there's air trapped in the bottom, it's going to go out the tube and into the casing. If there's air pockets that work their way to the top, this thing does have a release valve on it that will allow some of it to be released, which is nice. So I'm going to slide the cylinder back in. Going to kind of make sure I'm good and lined up as I start putting the piston down. Like I said, there's an O-ring on there, which gives you a real nice seal. And actually, when you first start, you could actually hear some of the air coming out of the top of it, because that valve is releasing it. And I'm pretty much ready to start stuffing. What I would say about this venison mixture here is, as far as the recipe is concerned, like I said, I got that offline, and we're looking at pretty much 4 pounds of venison. I use beef fat. You're supposed to use pork fat. You're supposed to use 4 pounds of venison and a pound of pork fat. I did not have pork fat. I had an overabundance of beef fat, so I decided to go ahead and use it. And I fried some of it up, and it's perfect. It's great as far as the taste, so I'm not too concerned about it. But the whole recipe is 4 pounds of venison, 1 pound of pork fat, or in my case beef fat, 2 tablespoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of Instacure #1, 2 teaspoons of ground black pepper, 2 teaspoons of dried marjoram, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and 6 cloves of garlic. I got a little lazy with the garlic. I used garlic powder instead, and you can swap out garlic powder in the ratio of, I think it's 1/4 of a teaspoon equals 1 medium-sized clove of garlic. So that's basically what I did, just to kind of make the process a little easier. I also did something that you're really not supposed to do, and that is I mixed this up ahead of time, ground it, mixed the spices and everything, and I put it back in the refrigerator. And that was 2 nights ago, only because I didn't have time to go ahead and stuff right after grinding it. But technically you're supposed to mix it and grind it and stuff it all at the same time, for the simple fact that the salts in this mix will cause it to, it'll start getting really sticky. The meat gets very sticky and starts to set up, and of course you don't want too much resistance on the inside of the stuffer, because there is a lot of resistance as it's pushing down through the tube and everything. So the other thing I didn't mention was, for that reason, you're supposed to add about 1 ounce, maybe even 2 ounces of water per pound of meat as you are grinding and mixing up, so that you get a more pliable mixture with it. Okay, so that's where I am. And actually, I pulled mine out of the refrigerator a couple hours ago. I wanted to get it kind of back to room temperature. I didn't want to try and stuff it while it was colder, because that would also increase the resistance. But I ran it through the food processor again on pulse, for about 5 or 10 seconds only, just kind of hitting it a few times. And I did add more water to it, just because it was a really stiff, sticky mixture, and I was afraid of it being too hard on the gears on the stuffer. So, and that water doesn't affect the taste at all or anything else, so it's good to go. All right, so enough yakking away about that. Got the casing on the tube, got the cylinder filled with meat, and this is a little more difficult with one person than it is two. If you have 2 people doing this process, you got one person that's focusing on the rate of turning the handle to extrude the sausage, and you got the second person focused exclusively on feeding the casing off the tube. If you're working solo like I am, you got to focus on both of them simultaneously. So it's really just a matter of getting the a proper rhythm and speed down. Obviously you want consistency. I've got a big old hole in that. I've got a hole in the casing right there. So what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to pinch that off right there. I'm going to pull it past it. I'm going to pinch it off. I'm going to snip this right here for a minute. If that was a small hole, I need a little more out of there. If that was a small hole, I wouldn't worry about it, but that was pretty sizable. I'm going to go ahead and knot this. I'm going to put that aside for a second. I'm not going to waste your time watching me struggle to get a knot in it. I'm going to feed some more off of here, past that hole, get rid of that so I have something to work with, and I'm going to re-knot it. So essentially I'm almost starting over here. It's about the ugliest knot I've ever put in a piece of casing. Alright, so let me try this again. So again, it's just a matter of trying to get the proper speed for getting it out of the stuffer and getting the casing off the tube. But I don't know if I ever finished my previous thought. What I was starting to say, and maybe I did finish, I don't know, was that you don't want to overstuff it, because you do end up with holes in it then, or you can. Obviously you don't want to understuff it either, but the thing is, I'm gonna end up making links out of this, okay? And I realize it with kielbasa, you typically do like a larger ring or something like that, and that's great. But I think for my purposes, I'm gonna end up probably putting this in like 6-inch links. So the linking process is going to help take up some of the slack, if you want to call it that, if you end up with some less than completely full sections of casing. Not a lot, but some. Alright, so that's the end of that piece of casing. I'm going to go ahead and knot this. Alright, now I'm going to set this other one off to the side here for a second. Now that's not a very long piece. Typically I'd end up with something 3 or 4 times that long, but at least this will make a point. So that's what you kind of end up with. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and snip off the extraneous casing there. You can kind of work it a little bit to get consistency down the length of the link, as far as how full and how firm it is. And then what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to do 6-inch links, and I'm going to pinch about right there, and I'm going to roll this one to me, and you only have to go around about 2 or 3 times. I'm going to slide it down. I'm going to pinch. I'm going to roll that one away from me. I'm supposed to turn opposite directions. I'm going to roll it down. I'm going to pinch. And there are 4 links anyway. Okay? And I don't know, some of this extraneous stuff, this is, natural casing, so you've got some parts of it that some people may find unappealing. If you're careful, you can kind of elevate them up off the surface and remove them, and you end up with that. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and do another one here. Thanks so much.